What are some of your favorite pure single-player games of all time? Today, I'm gonna share some of mine. Games I really think are top tier when it comes to story, characters, world, and overall immersion. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so Metro Exodus. This came out in 2019 and it's like the third game in the Metro series. And if you played Metro 2033 or Metro Last Light, you know those games are very linear, very claustrophobic. You're in the Moscow metro tunnels for most of it. Metro Exodus takes that formula and opens it up, and it works way better than I expected, dude. So you're still playing as Artyom, and the setup is that you and a group of survivors steal this train called the Aurora, and you're leaving Moscow to try and find a better life somewhere else in post-apocalyptic Russia. And the game is structured around these big open areas that you explore. Like, you'll arrive at a location, you get off the train, and you have this semi-open world to explore for a few hours before you move on to the next area. It's not a full open world, it's more like these large sandbox levels, and I think that structure works really well, because each area has its own vibe, its own story, its own challenges. The first big area is the Volga, which is this frozen river region in early spring. You're exploring this muddy, partially frozen landscape, there's this crazy religious cult, there are mutants everywhere, and you're just scavenging for supplies and trying to help your crew. Then you go to the Caspian Desert, which is completely different. It's hot, it's sandy, you're driving around in a van, and it feels like a different game. Then there's the Taiga, which is this dense forest, and that one's more linear and focused on stealth. Each area has a different season, different enemies, different atmosphere, and it keeps the game feeling fresh. The survival mechanics are still there from the previous games, but refined. You're managing your gas mask filters when you're in irradiated areas, you're managing ammo, which is scarce, you're cleaning your weapons because they get dirty and jam if you don't maintain them, and you can customize your guns on the fly. Like, you find a workbench or you're back on the train, and you can add scopes, change barrels, add stocks, modify your weapons however you want. It's really satisfying because you're constantly tweaking your loadout based on what you're about to do. The gunplay feels good, it's got weight to it, and you can approach situations with stealth or go loud, and the game accommodates both. I found myself using stealth a lot because ammo is precious and you don't want to waste it if you don't have to. But when fights break out, they're tense and desperate because you're always low on resources. You're not some overpowered super soldier. You're just a guy trying to survive with whatever gear you can scavenge. The story is pretty straightforward, but it's got heart. Artyom doesn't talk, which is a weird choice for a game that's trying to be more personal and character-driven, but whatever. The people on the train with you, they're your crew, and you get to know them over the course of the game. Yeah, so the moral system is back from the previous games, but it's more subtle here. You're not getting obvious good choice, bad choice prompts. You just play how you want to play, and the game is tracking stuff like whether you're killing people or knocking them out, whether you're listening to conversations, whether you're helping people you encounter. The atmosphere in this game is incredible, man. Like, 4A games just nails the post-apocalyptic vibe. The way light filters through your gas mask, the sound design with the wind and the creaking of the train and the mutant noises, the little details like wiping dirt off your mask or checking your watch for radiation levels. It's so immersive. And the graphics are gorgeous, especially with ray tracing if you have the hardware for it. The lighting in particular is just stunning. The way sunlight breaks through clouds or the way your flashlight illuminates dark tunnels, it all looks amazing.
So you got me, you damn heretics!
This game is just a masterclass in player choice and level design. Like, this is one of those games where every player's experience can be completely different based on how they approach it. You play as Corvo Atano, and you're the bodyguard to the Empress of this city called Dunwall. And right at the start, things go bad. The Empress is assassinated, her daughter Emily gets kidnapped, and you get framed for it. So you escape, you join up with this resistance group called the Loyalists, and they're helping you take down the people who orchestrated all of this so you can rescue Emily and clear your name. It's a revenge story, basically. But how you execute that revenge is completely up to you. The setting is what really makes this game special, man. Dunwall is this industrial Victorian-era city that runs on whale oil, and there's a plague ravaging the population spread by rats. It's got this really unique aesthetic. It's like steampunk, but darker and grittier. The art direction is incredible. It's got this painted look to it, almost like a moving painting. Everything is angular and stylized in this really distinct way, and the city feels oppressive and dying. There are plague victims everywhere, the city watch is brutal, there are these tall boys walking around on stilts. It's just such a well-realized world. The gameplay is all about giving you a toolkit and letting you figure out how to use it. You get supernatural powers from this entity called the Outsider. You can teleport short distances with Blink, which is probably the most useful power in the game. You can possess animals and people. You can stop time. You can summon rats to eat people. You can see through walls. And then you've got your sword, your pistol, your crossbow, various gadgets like spring razors and sticky grenades. And every mission is designed with multiple paths and multiple solutions. Like, you can go full stealth and never be seen, never kill anyone. Or you can go lethal stealth where you're sneaking around but killing everyone. Or you can just go loud and fight your way through. And the game tracks this with a chaos system. The more people you kill, the higher your chaos. And higher chaos means more rats, more plague victims, darker story outcomes. Lower chaos means things are better, fewer enemies, more hopeful outcomes. So your playstyle actually affects the world and the story, which is really cool. The level design is some of the best in any game ever, dude. Like, take the Boyle Mansion mission. You're infiltrating this masquerade party to assassinate someone, and there are so many ways to approach it. You can sneak in through the sewers, you can possess someone to get past the guards, you can go through the upstairs windows, you can blend in at the party, and once you're inside, there are multiple ways to complete the objective. Some lethal, some non-lethal. Every mission has this kind of depth. And the non-lethal options are really creative. Like, you're not just knocking people out, you're finding these elaborate ways to neutralize your targets without killing them. Sometimes these non-lethal solutions are darker than just killing the person, which is a cool touch. The game really makes you think about the consequences of your actions. The sword combat is pretty simple. You can block and parry and counterattack, but it's not super deep. The game is clearly designed more around stealth and using your powers creatively. But if you do get into a fight, it's satisfying enough. The pistol and crossbow feel good, and there are different bolt types like sleep darts for non-lethal takedowns. Now, the game is pretty short, like 8 to 10 hours for a first playthrough, but the replayability is insane. Like, I've played through Dishonored multiple times doing different builds and different playstyles, and it feels fresh every time. A ghost run where you don't kill anyone and never get detected is a completely different experience from a high chaos murder spree run. Fallout New Vegas is basically the greatest mistake ever made because it is a buggy mess that crashes all the time, but it is also a masterpiece that will ruin your life for 3 months straight. You start the game by getting shot in the actual face by a guy in a checkered suit who sounds like he belongs in a jazz club, and then a robot digs you out of a shallow grave like it is no big deal. Most people would just stay in bed after getting their head opened up, but you decide to walk across a radioactive desert just to find the guy who tried to kill you so you can probably kill him back, or at least get your delivery package back. The whole game is set in the Mojave Wasteland, which is mostly just dirt and angry giant bugs, but for some reason you just cannot stop exploring every single broken building and abandoned gas station you find. The reason you spend over 100 hours in this desert is because every single person you meet has a massive problem and they all want you to fix it with a gun or by talking. You have to pick a side between a bunch of guys who think they are the old government and a bunch of weirdos called the Legion who dress like Romans and wear football pads for armor. It is honestly hilarious because these guys in skirts think they are going to take over the world with machetes and throwing spears, while everyone else has lasers and mini nukes. Then there's Mr. House, who is just a giant grumpy face on a computer screen, and he thinks he owns everything because he has an army of robots with wheels for legs. You spend so much time talking to these different groups and deciding who to betray that you end up playing the game 5 times just to see what happens if you blow up a dam or let a bunch of ghouls fly into space in a rickety rocket ship. There is so much weird stuff hidden in this game that you will be finding new things even after you've been playing for 100 hours. You can stumble into a town that is literally full of cannibals who dress like they are going to a fancy prom. The game even lets you kill basically anyone you want, so if you get annoyed by a guy talking too much, you can just end his career right there and the game will just keep going and change the story to fit your choices. It is famous for being broken, and you will definitely see a lizard flying through the sky for no reason, but the writing is so good that you just do not care. It's the kind of game where you go in for a quick quest and come out 10 hours later wondering why the sun is coming up and why you are still wearing a cowboy hat and carrying a big iron on your hip. Kingdom Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance is not just a game where you start with nothing, it is a game that goes out of its way to remind you how useless you are at the beginning. You play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith, and the game treats that fact very seriously. You are not trained, you are not educated, and you are not prepared for violence or survival. Even walking into the world feels dangerous because you do not have the skills, the money, or the respect to back yourself up. Early on, the game humbles you in small but brutal ways. You can't read signs or books, which means you miss information other characters take for granted. You get tired fast, your swings are sloppy, and enemies can overpower you in seconds. Stealing food, begging, or doing dirty work is sometimes the only way to get by. Guards will beat you down for looking suspicious, and townsfolk treat you like some nobody because that is exactly what you are. Combat is where this idea really hits. Sword fighting is slow, heavy, and technical. You cannot just mash buttons and win. At the start, your timing is off, your stamina drains instantly, and even one enemy can end you if you panic. Training with real instructors is not optional, it is survival. You slowly learn how to block properly, aim strikes, manage distance, and stay calm. The game makes improvement feel earned because it comes from repetition, not from magic stat boosts. Money is another struggle. You do not have a pile of gold waiting for you. Every coin matters. Armor is expensive, weapons break, food spoils, and repairs cost real money. You might have to choose between eating well or fixing your gear. Walking around in dirty clothes makes people trust you less, and poor equipment puts you at a real disadvantage. Nothing is handed to you, and the game is very comfortable letting you fail. As hours pass, something clicks. You start recognizing enemy patterns. You can survive fights you once ran from. You learn how to talk your way out of trouble, how to plan routes, and how to prepare before taking risks. When you finally wear full armor, read books, and walk into a dangerous situation with confidence, it feels incredible because you remember being the guy who couldn't even hold a sword straight. What makes Kingdom Come special is that it never breaks immersion to make you feel powerful too fast. The world stays harsh, grounded, and uncaring. You are not born into greatness. You crawl toward it slowly, step by step, mistake by mistake. By the end, you feel like a real person who survived a brutal world, not a power fantasy character, and that makes the journey from nothing to something feel more real than almost any other single-player game. At Max, when people talk about great open-world games based on movies, they usually forget about, and that is a huge mistake. This game captures the dusty and brutal feeling of the movies perfectly, and it is one of the most underrated games from the last 10 years. You play as Max, and your goal is simple, because you just want to build the ultimate car called the Magnum Opus so you can survive the wasteland. It starts off with Max losing everything and being left for dead in the desert, so you have to scavenge for scrap metal and parts, turn a rusty bucket of bolts into a literal tank on wheels. The car combat is the real star of the show here, and it feels better than almost any other game that involves driving. You aren't just racing around because you are actively trying to tear other cars apart using a harpoon gun and side-mounted flamethrowers and heavy armor. There is nothing more satisfying than using your grappling hook to rip the wheel off an enemy vehicle or pulling a sniper out of his tower while you are speeding past at 80 miles per hour. As you upgrade your car, it becomes faster and deadlier, and you really start to feel like the king of the road in a world where everyone wants to kill you. When you aren't in your car, you are exploring enemy camps and fighting bandits on foot using a combat system that feels a lot like the Batman Arkham game. It is heavy, crunchy, and Max hits like a truck, using shivs and shotguns and his bare fists to take down groups of warboys. The world itself is surprisingly beautiful, even though it is just a giant desert, because the lighting and the sandstorms are incredible to look at. When a massive storm rolls in with lightning and flying debris, you actually feel the danger and have to find cover or risk getting blown away. The loop of clearing out territories and helping different stronghold leaders is really addictive because every upgrade you get makes a noticeable difference. You might be hunting for water and food to stay alive, or looking for special car bodies to change how your vehicle looks, but everything you do feels like it matters for your survival. It is a lonely and atmospheric game that doesn't hold your hand too much, and it deserves way more credit for how it handles exploration and vehicle customization. If you missed this one when it first came out, you should definitely go back and play it, because there still isn't another game quite like it. Watch Dogs came out and kind of shook up the open world scene in its own way, even if people don't talk about it much anymore. You play as Aiden Pierce, a hacker with a tragic past who's out for revenge after a family tragedy, and the game throws you into Chicago, a city that feels real, alive, and like it has its own heartbeat. What made it unique back then, and still does, is the way it mixes hacking into an open world game. You're not just running and shooting or driving around. You can actually hack almost anything connected to the city's central operating system. Streetlights, traffic lights, bridges, cameras, phones, and even cars can all be controlled to give you an edge or just to cause chaos. The world itself is surprisingly detailed. Chicago is packed with NPCs that feel like real people going about their day, and the game has this sense of constant movement and danger. You can tail someone through the city, hack their phone to get info, or set traps using the environment. It's clever because it gives you so many different ways to approach missions. You can be sneaky, or you can just go in guns blazing with your hacking tools, making everything explode or fall apart around you. The driving is solid too. Cars feel weighty, crashes are satisfying, and driving through the streets while escaping cops or taking down targets is tense and fun. The story itself is a mix of personal revenge and bigger conspiracy stuff. It's not super deep or emotional like some modern story-driven games, but it keeps you invested in Aiden and the people around him. Side missions and online features also add a lot to the game. You can invade other players' games, hack them, or be hacked yourself, which adds a unique tension that most open-world games don't have. It's a little weird at first, but it's actually a really cool idea that makes the world feel alive and unpredictable. Combat is interesting because the game pushes you to think differently. You can fight with guns, but your hacking gives you tools that are often more powerful. You can turn the environment into a weapon, set up distractions, or mess with enemies' cars and phones to take them down without even firing a shot. That kind of gameplay was pretty fresh back when it came out, and even now it feels unique in a world of generic open world games. Watch Dogs is one of those underrated open world games that feels different from anything else. It's not perfect, the story can be a bit messy, and some missions get repetitive, but it's creative, the world is alive, and the hacking mechanics make you feel clever every time you play. If you skipped it back then, it's worth going back to because it still has that mix of fun, strategy, and chaos that most open world games don't bother trying anymore. Wolfenstein: The New Order is a game that I think really surprised a lot of people when it came out in 2014, and I'm including myself in that because, like Wolfenstein, right? It's this old franchise, it's one of the granddaddies of first-person shooters, and there had been attempts to bring it back before, like the 2009 Wolfenstein, which was fine, but not like amazing or anything. And then Machine Games comes along, and they're like, we're going to make a Wolfenstein game, but we're going to actually care about the story and the characters. And I think a lot of people were like, yeah, okay, sure, it's a game about killing Nazis, how much story do you really need? And then you play it, and it's like, oh, holy shit, they actually did it. They made a game about killing Nazis that has genuine emotional weight, that has characters you care about, that has moments that are legitimately affecting. And it's not at the expense of the gameplay either. Like, the shooting is still fantastic. It's still brutal and visceral and satisfying, but on top of that, you have this like surprisingly well-told alternate history story about what if the Nazis won World War II, and now it's the 1960s and they control the world. And you're BJ Blazkowicz, and you're basically the last hope for the resistance. The war is over, the Nazis won, and you've just been gone.
Berlin. Come in, Berlin. What's your status?
We're in bad shape, Captain.
Now let's talk about the combat. It's old school in all the right ways. You can carry every weapon at once. None of this 2-weapon limit nonsense. You've got your pistols, your assault rifles, your shotguns, your sniper rifles, and you can dual wield almost all of them. Dual wielding shotguns, dude. Dual wielding assault rifles. It's ridiculous and it's so much fun. And the game gives you options for how you want to play. You can go in loud, just blasting your way through everything, or you can try to be stealthy. You've got a silenced pistol, you can do stealth takedowns, you can throw knives, and the levels are designed to accommodate both playstyles. Like, there are usually multiple paths through areas, multiple ways to approach encounters, and I found myself mixing it up a lot. Sometimes I'd try to stealth through a section, take out the commanders quietly so they can't call for reinforcements, and then when I inevitably got caught because I'm not perfect at stealth, I'd just switch to loud mode and fight my way out. And the game handles that transition really well. It never feels like you failed if you get detected. It's just a different kind of fun. The level design is really strong too. You've got a lot of variety in the environments. You're going to a Nazi compound in Croatia, Croatia, you're infiltrating a prison, you're going to a concentration camp, which is heavy as hell, you're going to London, which is under Nazi occupation, you're going to the moon. Yes, they just casually put in a frickin' moon mission. The Nazis have like advanced technology in this universe because they found some ancient advanced civilization's tech and they've been reverse engineering it. So they've got like laser weapons and robots and powered armor and all this sci-fi stuff mixed with the World War II aesthetic. And it creates this really unique visual identity where you've got like 1960s technology and design mixed with advanced sci-fi Nazi superweapons mixed with this brutalist concrete architecture. It's very distinct looking. The game also has this perks system where you unlock abilities by doing certain things. Like if you get a bunch of stealth kills, you unlock stealth related perks. If you dual wield a lot, you unlock dual wielding perks. If you use certain weapon types, you get perks for those weapons. It's a simple system, but it works because it's rewarding you for playing the way you want to play. And the health system is old school too. You don't have regenerating health. You have a health bar and you pick up health packs and armor to stay alive. And it makes combat more tense because you can't just hide behind cover and wait for your screen to stop being red. You have to manage your resources, you have to decide when to push forward and when to fall back. And the game is generous with health and armor pickups, so it never feels unfair, but you still have to pay attention. The difficulty options are interesting too. I played through it like on the normal difficulty first, and it was pretty challenging but fair. But the game has these higher difficulties that really test your skills. And there's even this like permadeath mode where if you die, you have to start the whole game over, which is insane, dude. I haven't tried that. I don't have the patience for that. But it's there if you want it. The game is also surprisingly long for a single-player FPS campaign. It took me like 10 or 11 hours on my first playthrough, and I wasn't even trying to find everything. If you're going for all the collectibles and secrets, you could easily spend 15 hours or more with this game. And it's paced well enough that it doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome. There's enough variety in the missions and the locations that it keeps things fresh throughout. And for the boss fights, so there aren't a ton of them, just maybe one or two, I think. Dogs is probably the most underrated open world game of all time, and it is a crime that we never got a sequel. It came out around the same time as some other massive crime games, and people just assumed it was another generic city sandbox, but they were totally wrong. You play as Wei Shen, who is an undercover cop from San Francisco who goes back to Hong Kong to infiltrate the triads. The story is super intense because Wei starts to get too close to the people he is supposed to be arresting, and you really feel the pressure of him trying to keep his two lives separate. The best thing about this game is that it is not just about shooting guns, because the focus is almost entirely on hand-to-hand combat. Since it takes place in Hong Kong, you are using kung fu to take down groups of enemies, and it feels way more satisfying than just pulling a trigger. You can use the environment to finish people off, like throwing someone into a dumpster or slamming a car door on them, or even using a giant fan in the kitchen. As you play, you unlock new martial arts moves and combos that make you feel like you are starring in a classic Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan movie. The hits feel heavy and the animations are brutal, and it never gets old, even after hours of playing. Hong Kong itself is one of the coolest cities ever put into a video game because it feels so dense and alive. The streets are narrow and filled with neon signs and food stalls where you can actually buy pork buns to heal your character. Rain looks incredible on the pavement, and driving through the city at night while listening to the radio is a total vibe. Speaking of driving, the car mechanics are really fun and arcadey, and you can even do a leap from your car onto another vehicle while you are speeding down the highway. It makes the chase scenes feel like something out of a high-speed action flick. There is so much to do outside of the main story, like entering illegal street races or going to karaoke bars or even betting on cockfights. You also have a wardrobe full of cool outfits that give you different bonuses like better damage or more respect from the police. The voice acting is also amazing with some really famous actors involved, and it makes the characters feel like real people that you actually care about. If you want an open world that has a better story than most movies and combat that actually makes you feel like a martial arts master, then you have to play Sleeping Dogs. The Saboteur. You really have to understand the tragedy behind this game because it was the very last thing Pandemic Studios ever made. These were the guys who gave us the original Star Wars Battlefront and Mercenaries, so they knew exactly how to make things blow up in a way that felt good. Electronic Arts basically told them the studio was closing down while they were still finishing the game, and you can kind of feel that unfinished energy in some parts of the world. It came out in 2009, and it was trying to do something that even GTA and Assassin's Creed weren't doing at the time, which was mixing stealth and driving and climbing in a historical setting that actually felt miserable. The coolest mechanic in the game is the will to fight system, and it is not just a visual trick. When you're in a district that is heavily occupied by the Nazi forces, the entire screen is literally black and white like an old 1940s film, but the only things that have color are the red armbands and flags of the soldiers. It makes the world feel cold and scary, and it actually changes how you play, because the civilians in those areas are too afraid to help you, and the guards are everywhere. Once you start blowing up their fuel tanks and killing their generals, the color literally bleeds back into the neighborhood, and suddenly the French people will start fighting back in the streets to help you escape.
First we'll knock up a friend of mine. He can help us with Dr. Kessler.
And your friend?
The main character, Sean Devlin, is also a big departure from your typical hero because he is just a drunk Irish race car driver who wants to kill a specific Nazi officer who murdered his best friend. He is not a super soldier, so if you get into a big shootout, you are probably going to die pretty fast. You have to spend a lot of time on the rooftops, and the climbing feels a bit heavy and clunky compared to modern games, but it works because Sean is just a regular guy pulling himself up ledges. You can also steal a bunch of different 1940s cars, and since Sean is a racer, they actually go pretty fast and have a decent weight to them when you are drifting around the tight corners of Paris. One of the most unique things is the suspicion meter, which is much better than the stars in GTA. If you are dressed like a civilian, you can walk right past guards as long as you don't do anything weird like running or jumping over fences. But the game lets you kill a soldier and take his uniform, which is a huge deal because it lets you sneak into restricted areas. If you get too close to a guard though, he will start to notice your accent or that your uniform doesn't fit right, and his little yellow bar will fill up. It creates this really tense feeling where you are trying to act natural while standing next to a tank you just rigged with dynamite. It is a very special game that deserved a sequel, and it's a shame we never got to see this version of Paris again.
There's our man now.
Days Gone is one of those open world games that a lot of people slept on, even though it's actually massive and really well done. You play as Deacon St. John, a drifter and biker trying to survive in a world overrun by freakers, which are basically fast, zombie-like creatures. The game takes place in the Pacific Northwest, and the world feels huge, wild, and kind of alive. Forests, mountains, small towns, rivers, and highways are all connected in this open world, and traveling by motorcycle is one of the best parts because it makes you feel like you're really part of this world. Your bike isn't just for getting around, it's also your lifeline. You have to fuel it, maintain it, and upgrade it, which makes every ride a bit more tense and personal. What makes Days Gone stand out is the way it mixes survival, action, and story. You're not just running around killing enemies, you're dealing with a world that reacts to you. Freakers roam in huge hordes that feel insane, and getting caught in one without planning is basically suicide. But that's also what makes it fun. You can set traps, sneak around, or just ride through a horde guns blazing if you're feeling reckless. The game balances stealth, combat, and exploration really well, and it gives you a sense of freedom in how you handle situations. Side missions, camps, and random encounters make the world feel like it's actually lived in, not just a backdrop for the main story.
We don't have hope.
The story itself is surprisingly emotional for a survival action game. Deacon has this tragic past, and the game slowly reveals his relationships, losses, and struggles as he tries to survive and protect the people he cares about. It's the kind of story that doesn't feel forced. It's messy, human, and sometimes brutal, which fits perfectly with the world you're living in. The mechanics are also solid. Shooting and melee combat feel good, crafting is useful without being tedious, and your bike controls smoothly whether you're cruising on the highway or dodging freakers through the forest. The game also has a day-night cycle and dynamic weather that affect gameplay, making the world feel even more alive and unpredictable. At night, freakers are even more dangerous, which makes traveling feel tense and exciting. Though yeah, it isn't literally a 10 out of 10 masterpiece or something. Some missions feel repetitive and the pacing can drag at times, but the combination of story, open world freedom, and survival action mechanics makes it stand out. It's one of those games where if you give yourself time to just explore, fight, and ride around, you start to appreciate all the little details and the care put into the world. For anyone who loves open world games with a mix of danger, freedom, and a surprisingly emotional story, Days Gone is definitely worth checking out, and it doesn't get nearly enough credit for how big and immersive it actually is.
What does it matter if everyone else is dead?
Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty. Cyberpunk 2077 throws you into Night City, a wild futuristic place where giant corporations pull the strings, people casually upgrade their bodies with tech, and survival usually means hustling hard. You play as V, a hired gun who takes on a gig that seriously backfires, leaving you stuck with the digital ghost of Johnny Silverhand.
Consequences.
The game is, it's a mix of gritty action, deep personal choices, and a strange, sometimes intense friendship that messes with your head in more ways than one. Now look, yeah, the game had a rough launch, but with all the patches, it's finally the badass RPG we were promised. Combat feels way smoother, driving doesn't suck anymore, cops actually work, finally, and the skill tree got a full overhaul. You can build V however you want, stealthy hacker, katana-wielding ninja, guns-blazing tank, it all feels good now. And the world is, man, Night City is insane. Every street has a vibe, the people are wild, and there's always something sketchy going on. It's dense, stylish, and dripping with atmosphere. You'll walk into a ramen shop for a side quest and accidentally get pulled into a political conspiracy. Now, Phantom Liberty, this expansion changes everything. It's a full-blown spy thriller set in a new part of the city called Dogtown. It's grimy, locked down, and run by this sketchy warlord who plays by his own rules. What makes Phantom Liberty so good is how grounded and personal it feels. It's darker, more serious, and the writing is some of the best in the whole game. The choices hit hard, and the consequences? Yeah, you'll feel them. It also adds new gear, cyberware, vehicles, weapons, you name it. By the end of it all, the new endings, yes, new endings might change how you feel about everything in the base game. Not even joking, it's emotional, heavy, and totally worth seeing. Bottom line, Cyberpunk 2077 with Phantom Liberty is finally living up to the hype. It's a wild mix of action RPG, storytelling, and freedom set in one of the coolest game worlds ever made. If you skipped it before or dropped it early, now's the time to dive back in. Baldur's Gate 3.
Is expecting you. Please make your way to the audience.
Baldur's Gate 3 is everything you want in a classic Dungeons & Dragons style RPG, but with a modern twist. It's an absolute masterpiece that's been in the making for years, and trust me, the wait was totally worth it. Set in the iconic Baldur's Gate universe, it takes you on a journey through a world full of deep lore, magic, monsters, and complex characters. You start as a character who's been infected with a dangerous tadpole from a mind flayer, which grants you some powerful but potentially deadly abilities. From there, you're thrown into a world of chaos and intrigue, with your choices shaping everything around you. What's amazing about Baldur's Gate 3 is how much freedom it gives you. It's all about role-playing and making decisions that have real consequences. Want to play as a sneaky rogue who talks their way out of everything? You can do that. Want to charge in as a tanky barbarian and smash enemies into the ground? Yep, that works too. The character creation system is super deep, with tons of classes, races, and abilities to choose from. You can literally shape your character however you want, and it's crazy satisfying to experiment with different builds. Baldur's Gate 3 is all about building relationships. Your companions are more than just people you bring along to fight. They each have rich backstories, their own goals, and their own opinions on the things you do. You get into some deep conversations, have moments of personal growth, and yeah, you might even fall in love with some of them. Or hate them, depending on how you act. The characters feel like real people with their own desires, fears, and motivations, and that really elevates the story. Ying's world is also massive and full of things to do, from creepy dungeons and forgotten temples to bustling towns and mysterious forests. There's always something new to discover. It's rich in lore, and you'll find yourself wanting to dig deeper into the history of the world and the characters who inhabit it. Persona 5 Royal.
Looks like the rest of us drifted away. Everyone remember where we're meeting up?
Persona 5 Royal is the kind of game that just clicks and doesn't let go. It's a wild mix of everyday high school life and a crazy supernatural world full of twists and turns. You play as the Joker, a transfer student at Shujin Academy in Tokyo. At first, life seems like a regular high school grind, attending classes, hanging out with friends, dealing with typical teenage stuff. But then you stumble into this hidden world where people's desires get twisted, turning into palaces full of monsters and puzzles. That's where you and your crew, the Phantom Thieves, come in. You've got to infiltrate these palaces, change the hearts of corrupt people, and ultimately save the day. The story is where Persona 5 Royal really hooks you. What starts as small-time heists and changing the hearts of bad people turns into a full-blown conspiracy that has you questioning everything about the world and the people in it. It's got all the drama, mystery, and surprises that make you want to keep playing, just to see how things unfold. You'll get attached to these characters and their personal struggles, and the twists will leave you wanting more. Combat in Persona 5 Royal is turn-based, but it's got a strategic edge that keeps things interesting. You summon your personas, basically magical creatures, to fight for you, and battles are all about exploiting enemy weaknesses and working together with your team. The game lets you mix and match personas, fuse them into new ones, and experiment with different strategies. It's deep, but super fun, especially when you start figuring out all the little tricks to beat tough enemies. But it's not just about fighting. The real charm of Persona 5 Royal is how you balance your daily life. You'll be managing your time, studying for exams, working part-time jobs, hanging out with friends, and of course being a phantom thief. It's all about making the right choices with your time and relationships, and those decisions affect how the story plays out. There's something satisfying about watching your character grow in all these little ways. Detroit Become Human. Detroit Become Human is one of those games that doesn't just feel like a movie, it is a movie, but one where you're in control the whole time. The graphics are insanely realistic. Every scene looks like it came straight out of a sci-fi movie, and the characters are brought to life with some of the best voice acting and motion capture you'll ever see in a game. Their faces, their emotions, how they move, it's all super real. The story takes place in a future version of Detroit where androids, basically human-like robots, work for real people. Some clean houses, some do tough jobs, some take care of kids, but things start to get messy when the androids begin to feel emotions. They start thinking for themselves and asking questions like, why am I being treated like a machine? That's where your story begins. And in this game, you don't just control the story of one android, but 3. Each one has a totally different personality, and each story feels like its own mini-movie. But what's really cool is how these stories start to connect as you play. And the best part? You choose what happens. Every single choice you make matters. Save someone, lie, fight, run, stay silent. It all changes the outcome. People can live or die. Big scenes might not happen if you made a different call earlier. And by the end, you've got tons of possible endings based on what kind of person or android you turned each character into. The world itself looks amazing, from futuristic cityscapes and rainy back alleys to warm, quiet apartments and high-tech labs. Every location feels lived in and real. There's a strong mood in every scene, whether it's tense, sad, hopeful, or scary. The music backs it all up perfectly, with different themes for each character, soft piano, heavy drums, or electronic beats depending on the moment. What makes Detroit Become Human so special is how cinematic it all feels without losing what makes games fun. You're not just watching the story, you're shaping it. You're making tough calls and seeing the effects play out right in front of you. And the branching path system is one of the best ever. After each chapter, you can even look at a full flowchart that shows all the different choices you could have made. It's pretty wild how they devs went all in with the choices and narrative branches. This is a game you can play multiple times and still find new stuff, new scenes, new dialogue, even whole new endings. It's that deep, and with how good the acting and writing is, it really does feel like you're starring in a top-tier sci-fi movie.
We're getting reports that hundreds of androids have been stolen from Cyberpunk stores.
Red Dead Redemption 2. Now we're talking cinema with a cowboy hat, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is honestly one of the most cinematic, emotional, and straight-up beautiful games ever made. This isn't just a Western-themed open-world game, it's a slow-burning, heartbreaking, character-driven movie that you get to live in. Rockstar didn't just make a game here, they made a full-on experience packed with drama, insane visuals, and a story that sticks with you long after it's over. You play as Arthur Morgan, an outlaw trying to survive while his gang slowly falls apart. And the thing is, Arthur's not just some video game cowboy, he feels real. He's tough, loyal, flawed, and thoughtful in a quiet way. You're riding with him through his whole journey, watching him question the life he's living, watching his loyalty get tested, and depending on how you play, watching him try to be a better man before it's too late. It hits hard, especially toward the end. Honestly, it's one of the best written characters ever in a game. The story takes its time, and that's on purpose. It's all about building relationships, tension, and emotional weight. You spend hours with the gang, not just on missions, but around the camp, talking, playing cards, listening to people argue, or tell stories by the fire. It's like living inside a long, detailed HBO drama with layers of storytelling and big, powerful moments. And the cinematography here is absolutely next level. Rockstar really leaned into that movie look. You've got slow pans across mountains during sunset, close-ups during emotional cutscenes, and wide shots of Arthur riding alone through the snow. The animations are super detailed, and everything from how characters walk to how they sit on their horse feels smooth and natural. It's honestly crazy how much effort they put into the little thing.
I'm worried my path is coming to an end, Mr. Swanson.
Even the missions feel like scenes out of a movie. Robbing a train at night in the rain, breaking someone out of jail, riding through gunfire while the music swells. The game knows how to make moments feel big without needing a cutscene every time, and when it does cut to a proper scene, the acting and writing carry it just like a film. And even outside the main story, the world itself feels alive. You can walk into a saloon and get into a bar fight, or run into a stranger in the woods who needs help, or watch the sunset from your horse while birds fly overhead. Uncharted Series. At the center of it all is Nathan Drake, treasure hunter, smartass, and all-around lovable rogue. He's not just a gun-toting action hero, he's got real charm, and you actually get to see him grow across the games. In the early games, he's cocky and always chasing the next big score, but by the time you hit Uncharted 4, you see this dude wrestle with his past, question who he's become, and try to walk away from the life that keeps pulling him back in. And the story is told across 4 main games, plus Lost Legacy, and each one feels like its own self-contained movie. You're going from jungle ruins to snowy mountains, lost cities, deep sea wrecks, war zones, all shot with clean camera work and perfectly timed cutscenes. The transitions between gameplay and cinematics are so smooth you barely notice when the control shifts back to you. It just flows so well. And the set pieces? Legendary. A crumbling building in Nepal, a plane falling out of the sky, a train fight on a moving mountain railway, driving through muddy streets while buildings explode around you. Every game has at least 3 or 4 moments that feel like they were made for the big screen, and the fact that you're not just watching these scenes, you're in them, makes it all feel even more intense. Uncharted 4 especially takes things to another level. It slows down a bit, shows you Nate's home life, his relationship with Elena, and his long-lost brother Sam showing up out of nowhere. It's more mature, more personal, and the visuals, honestly, they still hold up like a movie today. The final chapter of the series is packed with big set pieces, sure, but also a whole lot of emotion and quiet storytelling. It closes Nate's story in a way that feels satisfying and earned, like the end of a great film trilogy. And let's not forget Lost Legacy. Chloe and Nadine's adventure is shorter, but it still has everything that makes Uncharted great. Incredible scenery, smooth pacing, funny character dynamics, and more wild action moments than most games can dream of. God of War Ragnarok. Everything from the way the camera moves to the way the scenes are put together makes it feel like a full-on cinematic experience. It's not just the story that's good, it's the way it's told. No loading screens, no cuts. The whole game plays out in one long camera shot, which keeps you locked in from beginning to end. The opening Thor boss fight is the perfect example of this. It doesn't waste any time. You're just a few minutes in and suddenly Thor shows up at your door. The fight isn't just cool to watch, you're in it. It's big, loud, intense. The way the fight moves from place to place, breaking walls and shaking the house, sets the tone right away. You know from that point on, this game is going to be packed with huge moments.
He died of the wounds you gave him. Oh, that model father!
The game takes you across all kinds of beautiful locations. You'll explore frozen lakes, mountain paths, ancient ruins, and other Norse realms, each one with its own look and feel. The graphics are crazy detailed. Snow crunches under your boots, armor shines in the sunlight, and the lighting in caves and temples gives everything a dramatic vibe. You can pause the game at any moment and it'll still look like a screenshot from a CGI animation. The set pieces throughout the game are a big reason it feels so cinematic. You'll be fighting giant monsters, running through crumbling buildings, riding on sleds, threads through snowy woods, and the way it's all presented keeps the energy up. It never feels like you're just watching something happen. You're always in control, even when the scene gets big and dramatic. The Last of Us.
It's the outside.
So is that everything you hoped for?
Can't be any worse.
This one's a no-brainer. The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 aren't just games, they're straight-up cinema you can play. Both of them are built to feel like a movie from start to finish. The acting, the camera work, the music, the lighting, everything is polished and emotional, but what really makes them stand out is how smooth the whole experience feels. Like you're playing the game, but it never really feels like you're being pulled out of a story. Let's start with The Last of Us Part 1. You play as Joel, a guy who's just trying to survive after a global outbreak wipes out most of the world. He ends up having to escort a young girl, Ellie, across the country, and the two slowly build a bond that becomes the heart of the whole game. The story is super grounded and emotional, and it's told with this quiet, serious tone that feels like a high-quality drama series. The cutscenes are amazing, but even the gameplay parts feel like some cinematic fight sequences. The way the characters move, talk, and react to things around them, it's all super natural. The graphics even back on PS3 were ahead of their time, and the remake, Part 1, just makes everything even cleaner. Lighting, animations, the way Joel reloads his gun, or Ellie leans on walls while sneaking, all of it just adds the feeling that you're not playing the typical game, you're living out a story with real characters and real emotions. Then you've got The Last of Us Part 2, and this one cranks the cinematic feeling up to 100. It's probably one of the smoothest and most movie-like games ever made. The transitions between cutscenes and gameplay are seamless. There's no fade to black, no janky loading screen, it just happens. One second you're watching a scene, the next second you're walking through it. That makes a huge difference in how immersive it feels. Both games have these quiet, slow moments too, like playing guitar, walking through a museum, or just riding a horse through the woods. Those moments let the world breathe, and they're shot in a way that feels personal. Not every game gives you that kind of space.
What do you think of this view, huh?
Batman Arkham Knight. Batman Arkham Knight is the kind of game that doesn't try too hard to be flashy, but still ends up feeling like a full-on Batman movie you get to play. It's dark, smooth, and keeps things serious without going off the rails. Out of all the Arkham games, this one probably looks and feels the most like something you'd see on the big screen, just with you behind the controller. The game starts off with Gotham basically falling apart. Scarecrow's back, threatening to hit the whole city with his fear gas, so people evacuate, leaving behind a ghost town full of thugs and weirdos. It's just Batman, his crew, and a whole bunch of bad guys running around. That's where you step in. You get dropped right into it, no long tutorials or anything. Just you, your suit, and a city to clean up, and it plays super smooth. Whether you're gliding through the air, diving between rooftops, or jumping straight into a fight, everything feels responsive and easy to control. The game never gets in your way. One of the biggest things people talk about with this game is the Batmobile, since this is the first Arkham game that lets you actually drive it around the city. Some folks didn't love it, but honestly, it works fine. It's fast, it can transform into a tank, and you can even use it during fights or puzzles. It's not perfect, but once you get used to it, it's fun to use, and it makes you feel more like Batman. The city of Gotham looks amazing too. It's big but not empty. It's not stuffed with boring side content like other open world games. Everything has a purpose. The rain, the lighting, the glowing signs, it all adds to the mood. It never feels too colorful or fake. It just feels right for Batman. Now the story here isn't just about stopping Scarecrow. There's this new villain, the Arkham Knight, who knows all about Batman and seems to really hate him. The mystery around who he is builds up slowly, and while some players might see it coming, it still plays out in a cool way. And then there's Joker. Yeah, even though he's dead, he's still hanging around in Batman's head, messing with him. Those moments are actually some of the best parts. It shows a different side of Batman. Tired, paranoid, and kind of broken, but still pushing forward. The combat is classic Arkham stuff, super fluid, you press a few buttons and Batman's flipping, punching, countering, using gadgets mid-fight. It all feels natural and looks good without you needing to memorize a bunch of combos. Same with the stealth sections. Sneaking through vents, dropping from ledges, quietly taking people out one by one. It's all really satisfying, especially when you plan it right and no one even sees you coming. So yeah, Arkham Knight is one of the best examples of a cinematic game done right. It keeps the focus on the story, lets you move through the city at your own pace, and never overwhelms you with extra nonsense. It respects your time, looks great, and feels like you're living out the final chapter of Batman's story. Not watching it, but actually being the guy in the suit. Spider-Man 2. From the moment it starts, it throws you right into the action. The city looks amazing. The lighting, the reflections, the way everything moves, it all feels super clean and polished. And the way the camera follows Spidey when you're swinging through New York, yeah, it's smooth, real smooth. Every little swing, flip, and trick feels like you're watching a scene straight out of a Marvel movie. This time around, you get to play as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, which adds some nice variety. They each have their own powers, and switching between them is super quick. 1 second, you're Peter webbing up bad guys, the next you're Miles zipping through the air with electricity powers. It keeps the action fresh and looks cool every time. The fights are fast, flashy, and fun to watch. Lots of big animations, clean camera angles, and when you're pulling off combos, it really does feel like you're in a superhero film. Boss fights too, like the ones with Venom or Sandman, are huge and full of crazy effects. The game loves to give you those epic cinematic moments where everything slows down just enough to let you enjoy how badass it looks. But here's the thing, the game feels short. Not like super short, but for a big superhero game like this, it ends sooner than you'd expect. The story hits hard and fast, and before you know it, the credits are rolling. Also, while the open world stuff is fun at first, it starts to feel a little copy-paste after a while. You're chasing drones, stopping crimes, collecting things, all the usual stuff. And some of it feels a bit too familiar if you played the last 2 games. Still, the overall package is strong. Visually, it's one of the best looking games out there. The acting, the music, the set pieces, everything comes together to give you that big cinematic experience. Yeah, it could have been longer and some side content feels like filler, but the main story and core gameplay, super tight. Ghost of Tsushima. This one's a straight up samurai movie you can play. It doesn't just look cinematic, it feels like you're in one of those old school, slow burn, serious Japanese films, but with clean modern gameplay and smooth controls. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai trying to protect his island during a Mongol invasion. At first he's all about honor and tradition, but as things get worse, he starts changing. He has to let go of some of that old school samurai code and do whatever it takes to fight back, even if it means using stealth, fear, or just straight up slicing through enemies in the shadows. That shift in his character, that's what the whole game's about, not just killing dudes, but what it does to him. Now visually, man, this game is gorgeous. Every scene looks like a painting. You've got golden forests, misty mountains, fields full of flowers blowing in the wind. It's all crazy detailed, and the camera always frames stuff in a way that feels super cinematic. Like sometimes you'll just be riding your horse through the grass with the sun setting behind you, and it looks like a shot from a movie without you even trying. The combat is clean too. It's not overcomplicated, but every fight feels tight and focused. You've got sword duels, parries, standoffs, all with these crisp animations that feel super smooth. There's weight behind every hit, and when you get a clean kill, it feels earned. The way blood sprays, the way enemies react, it's brutal but in a calm, controlled way. Cutscenes and gameplay blend really well. You'll go from a quiet moment with Jin talking to an old friend, to sneaking into a Mongol camp in the dark, to a big open battle, all without any janky transitions. The music also kicks in at just the right times, soft and calm when you're exploring, but intense and dramatic when things go down. It really pulls you into the world. Now, yeah, there's some open world stuff that gets a little repetitive, like collecting foxes or clearing out enemy camps, but it's not that bad. The map feels natural, and the way the wind guides you instead of using a boring GPS marker is a small touch, but it's dope. It keeps you in the world without breaking the immersion. Alan Wake 2. Now this one's pure atmosphere. Like if you're into story-heavy games that feel like you're watching a slow burn mystery thriller, this one delivers big time. It's not loud or packed with non-stop action, it's more about the vibe, the tension, and the way it pulls you into this creepy, twisted world. You switch between two characters, Alan Wake's the writer trapped in this weird nightmare world, and Saga Anderson, an FBI agent trying to solve a case that starts getting real strange. Their stories are connected, but they're seeing it from totally different angles, and that back and forth flipping between them makes the story feel deeper and more layered, almost like watching two episodes of the same show play out side by side. Now what makes this game feel super cinematic is the way it's shot and edited. There are full-on live-action scenes mixed with gameplay, like actual filmed footage blended right into the game. Sometimes you're walking down a hallway and it turns into this trippy, dreamlike moment with flashing lights and live actors on screen. It's wild, but it works. It never feels like a gimmick. It adds to the whole "is this real or not" feeling that the game leans into. Visually, the game is dark, but in a clean way. Forest, cabins, creepy small towns, everything has that horror movie lighting, flashlights, shadows, weird flickers of light in the distance. It all feels carefully set up, like scenes from a movie. It's moody, quiet, and full of tension. Sometimes you're just slowly walking, nothing's happening, but you feel the pressure building the whole time. Gameplay-wise, it's simple but tight. You've got that flashlight and gun combo again, shining light on enemies to make them vulnerable, then taking them down, but it's not about waves of enemies or crazy fights. Most of the time, you're exploring, reading clues, solving small puzzles, and just soaking in the world. It's more about the journey and the weird stuff you uncover. The writing is solid too. Alan's sections especially feel like you're inside his head, literally sometimes. He's a writer, so his thoughts are part of the story, and the game leans into that hard. Pages of a story appear before things happen. You're walking through events he's already written, or maybe he's writing them as they happen. It's trippy but cool. Only downside, it's not for everyone. The pacing can feel slow if you're not into that heavy story, and it's definitely weird at times. But if you're into games that feel like you're watching a mystery series with horror vibes, this thing nails it.
Converge on the facility now.
The Plague Tale Requiem. Now we're getting into A Plague Tale Requiem, and man, this one is pure cinematic emotion. Like, it doesn't just look good, it hits hard too. It's one of those games where the story and the visuals work together so smoothly, it feels like you're watching and playing through a full-on medieval drama. You're back playing as Amicia, still trying to protect her little brother Hugo, who's got this weird power tied to a plague of rats. Yeah, still rats. And yeah, still brutal, but this time the story is darker, deeper, and way more intense. You're not just running from soldiers or trying to escape a city. Now you're crossing entire regions, trying to find a cure, and watching these two kids basically lose their childhood along the way. Visually, this game is stunning, like, for real, some of the best graphics out there. Whether it's a bright field of flowers, a foggy ruined village, or a nighttime escape with torches lighting the path, it always looks amazing. The camera pulls back at just the right moments to show you big open views, or zooms in tight when it wants you to feel the tension. And it's all seamless. Cutscenes and gameplay blend right into each other, no awkward jumps or loading screens. It just flows. The cinematic feel really comes through in the way the story is told. The acting is strong, especially from Amicia. She's angry, scared, desperate. All of it feels real. And Hugo, he's still a kid, but you can tell he's changing. The things he sees, the choices he's forced into, it's rough. The story doesn't hold back, and it doesn't treat these characters like superheroes. They're just trying to survive. Gameplay is still kind of stealth-focused with puzzles and light combat, but it's stepped up from the first game. Amicia is tougher now. She can fight back more, use more tools, and take on enemies head-on if she has to. But even then, it never turns into an action game. You still feel small. The danger always feels close. And when the rats show up, bro, it's insane. Like rivers of them. 1,000. They pour through cracks, break through walls, flood buildings. It looks incredible and terrifying. A Plague Tale Requiem Requiem is basically a story-driven, emotional, dark medieval film, but you're in control. It's got heart, it's got incredible visuals, and it knows how to keep things grounded. It's sad, intense, and totally worth it if you want a game that feels like something real and heavy.
I feel my mind going.
I know. Think of your brother. We have to carry on.
Oh no.
Yakuza 0. But Yakuza 0 is this game where you jump into the crazy world of the Japanese mafia back in the 80s, but it's got this awesome mix of serious crime drama and some seriously funny stuff. You get to play as two main dudes. First, there's Kazuma Kiryu. He's this young stand-up guy who's just starting out in the Yakuza in Tokyo, but he gets set up for a murder he didn't do, and he's got to clear his name while getting tangled up in this huge fight over land. Then there's Goro Majima. He's this really charismatic and kinda nuts guy who runs a cabaret club in Osaka. He's got his own messed up past and a lot of ambition. The main story is this big crime story with all sorts of twists and betrayals, the kind of stuff you'd expect from a Yakuza game. But what makes Yakuza 0 so great is how it mixes this serious story with all the crazy stuff you can do on the side. You can get into these over-the-top street fights with random thugs, but the fighting is actually really fun and has different styles for both Kiryu and Majima. But then you can also spend hours running a cabaret club, hiring hostesses and trying to make it the best in Osaka. Or you can go bowling, sing karaoke, which is way more fun than it sounds, play old-school arcade games, or even help out random people with their totally weird problems in side mission. The world in Yakuza 0 feels so alive, you can just walk around the bright neon streets and always find something interesting happening. All the characters, from the main ones to the weirdos in the side quests, are really memorable.
I can't make this choice.
Life is strange.
No, Max. You're the only one who can.
This is one of my favorite games of all time. The soundtracks and the whole vibe of the Life is Strange 2013 is really nostalgic. This game is like a punch to the gut, but in a good way, you know? It's all about choices and consequences, and it really makes you think about how even the smallest decisions can have a huge impact. You play as Max Caulfield, this shy photography student who goes back to her hometown of Arcadia Bay. Pretty soon after she gets there, she discovers she has the power to rewind time. At first, it seems pretty cool. You can fix mistakes, get the right answers in class, avoid awkward situations. But as the story goes on, you realize that messing with time can have some serious and unexpected consequences. The game is very story-driven, focusing on Max's relationships with the other students at Blackwell Academy, especially her best friend, Chloe Price. Chloe's kind of a rebellious, troubled soul, and their reunion is a big part of the story. You'll be making a lot of dialogue choices that affect your relationships with everyone, and these choices can have some pretty significant outcomes later on. The art style is kind of unique and painterly, and the soundtrack is fantastic, really setting the mood for the emotional moments in the game. It's one of those games where the story stays with you long after you've finished playing, and you might even find yourself thinking about the choices you made and wondering what would have happened if you'd done things differently. Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is this super energetic action game that mixes beat-based combat with hack-and-slash mechanics. You play as Chai, a regular guy who volunteers for this experiment that goes wrong, and as a result, he ends up with a cybernetic arm and this music player fused into his chest. That's the core gimmick. Everything in the game moves to the music. Your attacks, dodges, and combos literally sync to the beat. So timing isn't just cosmetic, it actually makes combat flow better. The story is mostly a fun, over-the-top setup. Chai is this sarcastic, kinda lazy guy who suddenly has to fight a bunch of corporate goons, crazy bosses, and the odd robot or two. It's not dark or emotional. It's loud, colorful, and full of personality. The writing is funny, the dialogue is full of jokes, and Chai reacts to situations in a very human way, which is nice because it makes you feel connected to him even though the story itself isn't super deep. deep. Gameplay is where this game really shines. You can mash buttons and survive, but if you start syncing attacks to the rhythm, the combos flow naturally, you chain hits better, and boss fights feel satisfying instead of chaotic. You also get help from different partners during fights, each with unique abilities, which adds another layer of strategy. Switching between Chai and your partners feels smooth, and the bosses are designed so you actually have to pay attention, react, and sometimes even move around the arena to hit weak points on beat. Visually, the game is ridiculous in the best way. Neon colors, exaggerated character designs, crazy effects when you land combos, it all pops and matches the music perfectly. The environments are industrial but lively, and there's a lot of small details if you pay attention, like robots doing random tasks, hazards you can knock into enemies, or little visual cues that help you time attacks. It's not massive or open world, but it doesn't need to be. Everything is designed to support the rhythm combat, and that works really well. The music system is actually clever. It feels natural and rewarding rather than gimmicky. Hitting the beats gives you rhythm points, which can improve your attacks or fill your meter for special moves. It's satisfying when you start seeing combos build up and the music and combat start feeling like one thing instead of two separate systems. Bosses really push this system, forcing you to pay attention to timing and positioning while keeping the flow going. Ryse, Son of Rome. Son of Rome is this cinematic action game where you play as Marius Titus, a Roman soldier caught up in this huge story about family, honor, and war. It originally came out on Xbox One in 2013 and later on PC, and even though people mostly remember it for its graphics, there's more going on than just eye candy. The game is basically a third-person hack and slash with a lot of cinematic presentation. Think big battlefields, huge armies, and a ton of cinematic cutscenes mixed with the action. The story itself is kinda simple, but it works with the game's style. Marius starts as a young soldier, sees his family killed by barbarians, and sets out on this revenge path while also rising through the ranks of the Roman army. It's not subtle. Characters yell a lot, speeches happen all over the place, and the dialogue is very much epic Roman drama. But that's the vibe the game is going for, and I can't hate it for that. You feel like you're part of a story that's larger than you, even if some moments are a little over the top. Gameplay is mostly about combat, and it's a bit more tactical than it looks at first. You've got sword combos, shield blocks, executions, and some light strategy when facing groups of enemies. Timing matters, especially for parries and counters. The executions are a big part of the flow. They're flashy, and they give the combat this rhythm to it that makes fights feel satisfying instead of just mashing buttons. There are also some sections with the bow, but it's really secondary. One thing that stands out is the scale. The battles feel huge, with dozens of enemies on screen, soldiers charging, and the occasional elephant or siege machine thrown in. Even though the game nudges you along a linear path most of the time, it still gives this feeling of being in a massive war. The environment, Roman forts, and battlefields are detailed and atmospheric, which helps sell the epic scale. Visually, it's probably what people remember most. CryEngine does a lot here. The lighting, the blood effects, the armor reflections, even the crowd animations are all solid for its time. It's not perfect. Some faces and expressions look a bit stiff, but overall it's impressive and still holds up better than a lot of other games from 2013. The story pacing can feel a bit forced at times, especially with all the cutscenes, but it keeps the focus on Marius and his personal journey rather than trying to overload you with politics or history lessons. There's a clear sense of progression. You go from a young soldier to a general, and the game makes you feel that growth through combat and story moments. The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us is this episodic adventure game that Telltale made back in 2013, and honestly, it still feels fresh if you like story-driven games. You play as Bigby Wolf, yeah, the big bad wolf, but way older, grumpier, and now basically the sheriff of Fabletown, which is this hidden community of fairy tale characters living in New York. The whole vibe is dark, gritty, and noirish, like a detective story but with fairy tale characters. Snow, rain, dark alleys, it's moody, and the art style is comic booky, which really helps sell that vibe. The story is the heart of the game. Right away, you get pulled into a murder investigation, but it's not just about solving a crime. The people you're dealing with, Snow White, Bloody Mary, all these classic characters have personalities, agendas, and secrets. Some of them are nice, some are shady, some will straight up lie to you. Bigby isn't exactly a good guy. He's gruff, rough around the edges, and sometimes violent, which makes the dialogue and choices feel real. You're constantly thinking about who to trust, how to handle situations, and what kind of Bigby you actually want to be. Gameplay is mostly point-and-click adventure with dialogue choices and a few quick-time events during fights. It's not about combat skill, it's about decisions and pacing. Choices feel meaningful. Someone lives, a character gets scared off, or a story branch changes later, and it doesn't always spell out the consequences immediately, which is cool. Some people hate that there's not much traditional gameplay, but honestly, the way Telltale structures it makes you feel like you're part of a real story rather than just completing objectives.
This whole time, listen to your wife.
The episodic format works here because it gives you time to think about your choices and reflect on the story. Each episode ends in a way that keeps you guessing, and sometimes you're left with morally gray situations where you don't really feel like there's a right answer. Bigby's personality plus the dialogue options make you feel like you're actively shaping who he is over time. Art-wise, the game nails it. The cel-shaded comic book style is perfect for the setting. It's not just pretty, it adds to the tone. Rain-soaked streets, smoky bars, dark offices, every scene feels like it's part of a bigger, lived-in world. The sound design and music also pull you in. It's subtle but effective, keeps the tension up, and complements the noir vibe. The Wolf Among Us is definitely niche. If you're expecting action or fast gameplay, this isn't it. But if you like stories, characters, and choice-driven drama, it's fantastic. Some of the side mysteries and conversations are surprisingly memorable, and even small characters feel real. It's messy, morally gray, and really invests you in this world of fairy tale people trying to survive in a harsh modern city.
He's had enough.
Dispatch is one of those games that feels like a weird, funny TV show you play instead of just watch, and it's been a surprise hit in 2025. It was made and published by Ad Hot Studio, a small team built by people who used to work on Telltale game stuff back in the day. That old Telltale vibe, where choice and dialogue matter more than twitch reflexes, is baked right into how Dispatch works and feels. The game dropped in October 2025 in a weird but cool way. Instead of releasing the whole thing at once, 8 episodes came out over a few weeks, kind of like a TV series you wait on each week. By November 12th, 2025, all episodes were available, and that means you can now jump into the full story from start to finish.
You have a lot left to give. I would like to make you an offer.
In Dispatch, you play Robert Robertson III, also known as the washed-up hero Mecha Man. His giant mech suit got wrecked, his reputation is in rough shape, and now he has to work at the Superhero Dispatch Network, SDN, which is basically a superhero office where you send other powered people out on missions instead of being the one in the field yourself. Robert isn't just giving orders though, he's dealing with his own sense of purpose while managing a chaotic team of misfits, including reformed villains and quirky personalities. The story leans really hard into comedy and character work. It's not this somber moral epic with deep lectures about good and evil, it's more about office drama in a world full of superpowers where choices you make in conversations actually shape how characters feel about each other and how things unfold. People talk, you respond, and sometimes what you say changes later scenes in subtle or big ways. The dialogue has real energy, partly because of the voice cast, which includes Aaron Paul, Jeffrey Wright, Laura Bailey, Moist Critical, Jack Septaikai, and others who bring the characters to life in a way the writing alone doesn't always do on its own.
Is that your car?
I don't have a car.
That's gonna be a weird insurance claim.
Gameplay isn't about fighting and shooting. You spend most of your time looking at the SDN map, deciding which heroes to send to what crisis, trying to match their strengths, weaknesses, personalities, and cooldowns to the job at hand. It's like a light strategy game smashed into a narrative adventure. There are also hacking minigames and occasional quick-time events to break up the conversation sequences and dispatch decisions, but it's never about crazy action. Something else worth pointing out is how the episodic structure really drove the conversation around this game. People weren't just playing and moving on, they were talking online about what happened last week's episode, guessing endings and theorizing about what choices would matter most. That doesn't happen with every game, but Dispatch tapped into it because its storytelling is built like a serialized show.
He's so fucking proud of the man you've become. He told me that.
What's wild is how much traction this game got for such a focused idea. It sold over 2 million copies in its first month, even without launching on every console yet, which is huge for a narrative-driven, indie-leaning title. That success has even got the developers talking about a possible second season down the line. That's basically Dispatch Season 2 if all the stars align. So Dispatch is not a typical superhero game where you punch stuff or save the world. It's a story-first experience where you manage people, deal with weird situations, and watch how your choices shift relationships and outcomes. If you like games that feel like interactive stories with some strategy and strong voice acting, this one deserves a spot on your list.
You're right at home behind that desk because you're no hero. You're a nerd playing a video game in a suit your daddy built.